Hello, and welcome to Khyber Shards. I am Eric.
I'm Colin.
And we just want to do a quick intro for the video here that you're watching. When we first started this show, we named all of our characters, built our characters, and had a good time with that. But it was made to our attention after a couple of sessions had been recorded that one of the characters' names was problematic in nature. And so now that we have been made aware of that, we're doing what we can to correct it.
It's just an unfortunate situation. Comes to fantasy names. You kind of think that the world is available, infinite possibilities, and the world being what it is that we actually live in, there's a lot taken up by things that we don't want to support or be a part of, and that's where we find ourselves. And so, with nothing but an upbeat and cheerful attitude, we're making a course correction.
Yep.
And we're just going to take it as simply as changing the character's name. We're just going to move forward. Easy enough. And we weren't exactly pot committed at this point. We've been light enough that it's easy enough to make this change.
Yeah. We've only recorded a couple sessions at this point. And if this might be a re-uploaded version of a previous episode, if you're confused as to why an old episode has been re-uploaded, because all of the overlay and the intro and everything has been updated with the new version of the character's name. I wonder if you all can figure out which character it was based. Well, I guess we are two players here, so it could be either or.
You'll have to rewatch and find out.
But the name is said frequently throughout the episode, and so we just wanted to include this intro to let you know if you are from a part of the world where this character's name is problematic, we are aware, and in future episodes it will not be a problem any longer. So thank you all for your patience as we continue to get our feet under us with this show. We do appreciate it. And
The best thing that we can have happen to us as human beings is to learn. And this was a great opportunity for all of us in the cast of this show to receive an education, and an even better opportunity for us to show where we stand on things and being able to right what was an inadvertent wrong. So
absolutely.
Here we go.
Yeah. So thank you all for checking out the episode and watching the show, and hopefully we'll never have to record an intro like this again.
Ever.
And she just punches Wog in the arm really hard. You didn't wait for me to get here.
I didn't start it. It was Shade started.
There was actually
she hit
a
first.
monster in the town.
How much damage did he take from that punch? Because he took 16 before.
I'm at 4 HP, so I go down going,
Now
but
you're
I
at-
like you!
Hello, and welcome to Khyber Shards, where we use milestone leveling so the XP doesn't matter. I'm Philip.
I'm Eric.
I'm Colin.
I'm not muted this time.
And I'm Casey.
There you go. Are you asking?
Man,
It's a
he's going to
statement, I'm
leave you
confident. I'm
hanging
Casey.
so many times. Yeah.
Only if you want to be. It's D&D, man. Do whatever you want.
True.
Well, welcome back. So, gang, what happened last time? 5 minutes ago.
Ari lost his clothes.
That's
what really
was a bit out of
not
context,
Ari.
Not Ari.
Ari. I said Ari. You didn't want the audience to know about what we did in between recordings. Okay, sorry. My bad.
We got on a boat.
We made it to Stormreach.
It was awful.
Yeah, we had
And
much
Ari
bad
signed
travel.
for a treehouse.
Took all that
After-
responsibility solely on himself.
After signing my livelihood to the Swords of Karn.
Can we start by having a house meeting now that we have the treehouse as to whether or not we allow Ari an actual room inside? We already got the place.
He sleeps on a hammock hanging from under the floor.
Listen, y'all, my name's on the lease, so
I propose that we spend this entire session just designing our treehouse.
Just decorating the house.
Shade has opinions.
Only half kidding. Maybe I'm only 1/4 kidding.
I feel like
Shade
you watch
has
a lot of Minecraft
experience
streamers.
making trees her home, so it's not
anybody.
the interior design aspect. It's the oh no, I know how to make a tree comfortable.
Welcome to Khyber Shards, 5th edition Treehouse Masters actual design.
Welcome to treehouse renovation.
yep.
Anyway,
Extreme Treehouse Makeover. We're going to beat this thing into the ground.
Yeah, it's gonna
Someone
be
needs
awesome.
to move us forward.
no, I'm very happy to, as people have them, hear descriptions of your space in the treehouse as you come out. And I'm sure we'll have some scenes that take place. I'm not going to give you a treehouse and then never set a scene in it. So, yeah. Anyway, and just to clarify, the term lease implies some sort of legal system, and Stormreach doesn't really have one. Like,
Yeah.
Stormreach has a government in the form of the Stormlords, but that government mostly exists to keep the city profitable for the Stormlords. And really beyond that, the Stormreach Guard just sort of ignores any crime that doesn't interfere with that goal.
Yeah,
so-
Ari's quickly going to develop some opinions about this system.
Yeah. So really the only thing that happens, like, there's not a prison per se. If you get arrested, the closest thing to prison is the Red Ring, which is where they do the gladiatorial fights. So it's hard to get arrested, but if you do, it's bad. It's real bad. So there's probably not a lease. It's more, you live here. The swords let you.
yeah.
So, yeah. So you've probably at this point, we're finally in real time. We're no longer in this extended 2 years ago flashback that we've been doing.
How exciting.
You've been in Stormreach for probably about a year and a half. And I asked you all to work out how you've been making a living, because while your home is on sufferance from the Swords of Karn, you still got to eat. So I asked y'all to work out how you've been making a living. We heard from Colin that Wog is working in a bar, in a soldier's bar that's run by the Swords of Karn. There's 2 different gangs in town that have swords at the beginning of their name. It's a problem. It's the cause of a lot of arguments between them, but it's really their main beef.
That's
Anyway,
it. That's the only
That's it. Yeah, they don't really have any political ideology opposed. It's just sort of, we were the swords first. Come on.
the lamest West Side Story ever.
Anyway, this is great content. So, Wog has been working at a bar operated by the Swords of Karn. So, give us some thoughts on that, Colin. How does that come about? What brings Wog to, Wog has been all about, I'm going to go out and do the adventurous thing, and Wog works at a bar. So tell us, how do we get there?
The bar itself was a quick job to be able to get a hold of. They need large, strong, capable hands around there. And it also physically is located the farthest away in that little area from the House Thrash refinery, which even though we are now years separated from his involvement with them, still just a place he'd rather not be near. Hair is now two years longer. There's a beard that's come in, but still not trying to be around there. Plus, being near the swords, not just physically, but involved with them, felt like a good way to get some adventure stories from those that are experienced. The war that I thought I was headed towards is a war that they have lived. The glory that I thought I was on track for is the glory that they get to sit around and share while they toast each other and the fallen. And it's a place that has, on the surface, the kind of spirit that was attractive to WoG. Now that we've been there a little longer, it reveals some of its more involved sides. That this is much more the Hell's Angels type thing. We've got some Sons of Anarchy going on. It's not all sunshine and easiness, but it still feels like a good opportunity to know some people that I could get involved in adventures. There's also the excursions into the jungle that from time to time I've gone on, but it's a secure thing. It's a safe thing for now, and it's a way to learn, which this feels much more real world applicable kinds of knowledge, more than what I got fighting wooden dummies in the Institute.
Cool. And what about?
What was the name of the bar? Did I catch that?
Yeah, we haven't given the bar a name. Would you
it
like to
hasn't
give
been
the
named.
bar a name?
I would after some more thought.
Okay.
In the moment,
You think on that.
I
and
got no idea.
We'll circle back around to what the bar is called. Eric, tell us a little bit about what Ari does, and also, and thank you, Colin, for doing this. Tell us what's changed physically. Like, what is Ari? How is Ari's appearance altered with 2 years more experience than he had when we met him back at the Blackwheel program?
Yeah, so Ari has finally, after much willpower, managed to grow a beard to match his jet black hair. And he has started dressing a bit more, I don't want to say extravagantly, because it's all very like patchwork, but it's very bright colors, very any of you that would have come to the district where he's primarily spending his time working would notice that it seems to be a cultural thing amongst the core of our, but very bright colors, kind of patchwork, functional material. So it's not like he's wearing fancy stuff, just brightly colored stuff. But he also, after the little, I'm deciding, I knew that he had this, but I'm deciding when it happened. After the little scuffle that we had on the road, he has a notch in his eyebrow from a scar that's left over from that fracas with the bandits, where they stole all of his shirts. So
Nothing else.
So what he's been doing, he's been spending a lot of time in the Cross district, mostly in Saltier. Is that how we're pronouncing it, Philip?
Yes,
or
that's how we are
Saltire.
I'm going to Saltire.
Saltire. Sal's
You
Tires.
have to take
That's
that
where he's
long
working.
to say it, too.
Come on down to Sal's Tires.
This is
So
where the tires live.
he Saltier is kind of a core of our dominant district. So he kind of found a lot of his people culturally to spend time with, and he kind of fell into the work that his family was doing of trying to help people in whatever capacity that he can. And how that is manifested itself, because also in the Cross there is a large Chiron population. Mm-hmm. And one of the first of many injustices that that gained Ari's ire in this city was that there is a big trade in merchants coming from Khyber to sell Chiron artifacts to Chiron citizens, aka stealing their stuff from the graves of their people and selling it back to them. And so Ari has begun using his talents with persuasion to, at the very least, encourage these merchants to at least sell it at a fair price. or if the merchants are especially egregious, he will either outright just convince them to give it up, or using his mark, or he will do what he can to attain a counterfeit version of the item and then swap it, basically. So the merchant has a fake version, and then return the actual items to, if not the people who outright used to own it, at least like the people who culturally it's important to, without them being taken advantage of. And so that's not the best paying gig, but people appreciate what Ari does and give him a bit of coin. If he ever charges a fee, it's like, give me 10% of whatever I save you, kind of thing.
Right.
So whatever I can get the price down. And so he's been doing that in addition to, gigging around Stormreach, where he can find stages to play on, and gets money from innkeepers or the owners of the taverns to play there. Any of you that would have come to any of Ari's shows over the past year and a half would have noted, though, that he doesn't make a whole lot in tips. It's primarily what he makes from the actual fee to play at the place. But people don't tip him that well, if at all. And I'm going to say, because he has a +6 in performance, none of you could tell why. He's good at what he does, but he just doesn't get tipped. So those are the things that Ari's up to in the year and a half. Well, to earn money, he's up to a lot more.
So Ari's come into possession of an arcane blaster at some point.
Yes, that's true.
Tell us how Ari has come into possession of that, because that's not cheap.
Probably. It was while he was on a job, because Khyber was the home of House Cannith and all of this great innovation. And so probably when he was working with, let's say, the Fleas, to go shake down one of these merchants that was trying to extort people, he probably found it in a trunk of Kyran artifacts that were found, and was just like, that's weird, and pocketed it, and then probably blew a hole in the wall of his room when he tried it out, because so that's probably
Ari risks getting you all thrown off the ship, and now he's blowing holes in your residence.
He quickly patches it up. He knows how to use a hammer and a nail.
Just one nail, one hammer and one nail.
It swings. He wanted a porthole out of his room, so he just.
You got mending?
So yeah, that's how he got the arcane blaster. He
Cool.
stole it from somebody who stole it from House Cannith's ruins.
How about Esri? What's Esri been doing to help feed himself?
Esri has made a couple contacts in the district. The most valuable one for him has been, the most steady of those has been a pharmacist, for whom he spends his time cultivating medical herbs and fungus, and then also venturing out into the forest to try to forage for whatever he can find. The more valuable, though less dependable, contact he has made is a man by the name of Gerald. Gerald? No, it's Gerald now.
Gerald now. It's weird that I know that, and he's your friend. His name's Gerald.
Gerald Goodblade, who will pay Esri for his for substances with less medicinal use, for things that can be put to more expensive and less healthy use.
Okay.
Can't wait to hear Philip's stoner voice.
So we're discussing recreational, not poison, right? This is
No, poison is a very valuable thing.
I mean, most things that are
so far.
recreational are poison.
The reason it has the effect is because you're poisoning yourself.
It's just a matter of dosage.
It's just a flower, bro. It's natural. It's nature.
If it comes from the
dude.
earth, it can't harm you.
It can't be bad.
That's
dude.
so very wrong. And what's has anything changed about Esri's appearance in the couple of years?
I don't. I mean,
Other than
he
presumably
was
he has his
a-
own clothes instead of whatever
Yeah.
the weird uniform was.
Well, he was a late teen.
Yeah.
When they escaped, so he's matured a little bit. But he's always looked young and a little too smooth faced compared to the normies around him. But he has developed an interest in fashion. He can't really afford it, but he does his best to find resales of maybe last season's fashions, or to buy cheap clothes and rework them to be more fashionable. He does have colonies of certain things growing on him. So there is a certain moss that he keeps in his hair, clearly on his stick, which he doesn't carry around town all the time, but he does carry into the woods all the time. So there's multiple things growing on that, and his skin has taken on a slightly more noticeable green than it was before.
Okay. There's probably in Stormreach a brisk trade in the clothes of people who end up dead in the gutter.
Yeah.
That would probably be a good secondhand clothing source.
Is this a district that we live in where the fashionable die in the gutters?
Probably not in Southwatch. No, that's probably not a place where
But the fashionable districts
go to
probably
die.
aren't going to buy the clothes off of the dead bodies, so they may make their way back up to us at the D&D version of Plato's Closet that we are frequenting.
All right, and what about Shade?
Well, Shade has never had a job before coming to Stormreach. She was fairly young when she got put in the program, and so she's gone around the city and tried out a couple of things, and there's just so many people, and it's just the worst. And at home, she goes into the woods. Like, that's where she spends her time. And she noticed that there were people who take people into the woods and then bring them back, and then they exchanged coin for this. So she asked Ari to teach her how to take the dirt off of the clothes. And then started putting herself out there with cleaner attire as a tour guide. And it turns out people will pay her to do this.
Awesome. And does Shade look any different from 2 years on?
She's, I was going to say other than the obvious, but I guess that doesn't make any sense to anybody except for the person playing her character. She is older, and so she was 13.
Sure.
You know how shifters age. Come on.
I sure don't.
So she was 13 when she went into the program. So she, I guess 13 when they escaped. So she's 15 now. And so she is a little bit, just physically, she has grown a little bit. She was almost full grown, but not quite. So she's a couple of inches taller. She went into the program just not barely surviving. Like, she was doing absolutely fine on her own, but there was nothing extra. So she's also filled out a little bit more as well. But other than that, the cleaner clothes. It's a new look.
Yeah. All right. So.
Oh, and she did. I'm so sorry. I meant to say this when we first met the characters, and I forgot because I'm still getting to know her. But Ari talking about the scar on his eyebrow reminded me of this. She survived in the woods on her own for like 3 years, and so she does have a couple of just random collection of scars all over. Not a plethora, but she does have several scars that she came into the program with.
Okay, cool. So the dice have chosen Colin. Colin, tell me a time in the last couple of in the first year and a half you've been in Stormreach, where Wog has been in a situation that he could have solved with his mark, but didn't.
So that's a tough one with this mark. Not a lot of times people go, man, I really wish we could just burn everything in sight down. It'd be really,
Ari has
really
said that
helpful.
to you multiple times after being in the account for a while.
Oof. Tough use on the mark here. By the way, the bar, this is what I've been spending my energies on. The Sword and Sheath is the name of the
Sword
tavern.
and Sheath. Nice, yeah.
You need to throw those dice in jail. I don't know what to tell you here, man.
Well, I mean, it seems like the most likely situation where your mark is useful is aggressively.
Yeah, it would have been during an attempt where the fake Swords organization,
The Swords of Liberty.
was attempting to come and rile things up. It could have been prevented had I at least disrupted their drunken, staggering, chanting selves. But with over regard for my own secrecy, I instead went in and told the rest of the Swords of Karn that they were needing to come defend their tavern, and so the gang fight in the street broke out, and there were casualties on the Swords of Karn side from this, and that is disturbing to think about, that I could have prevented the loss of life, even if I had just used my mark to startle away rather than to actually inflict any damage on other people. But just not going to do it. Just couldn't do it in that moment. So,
Okay. All right. Well, it is the month of Aurith, which is essentially November. And you all find yourselves in Summerfield, near the edge of the city. I'm going to say that Shade and Esri have probably been out in the woods. I'm going to just present that perhaps Shade has encountered an area of interesting plants, and knowing Esri's interests, has taken Esri out to see these interesting plants, assuming they haven't moved, because they do that. And Ari and Wog are preparing to meet them as they return. So we're on the street, not far from the river, and a bridge leads over the river into the trails that go out into the wood. Just across from here, Ari and Wog standing around, you can see the more or less permanent encampment of the giants that is known as the Tents of Rushame, where the nomadic giants that still live in Zendrick, which, as far as you know, are really all that's left. I mean, you hear stories, but as far as you have any reason to believe, are really all that's left of the ancient giant culture that once dominated this whole continent. It's really impossible to tell what's true as far as stories you hear about Zendrick, because they are just wild. Like, it is just bonkers. And occasionally they're true. And so it's just impossible. But as far as you've seen, these are sort of all the giants that are left. And this is the main entry point from the jungle and the main exit point from the jungle. So there's a lot of merchants, things like that, hanging out here, selling useful goods, useful things for adventurers that often get forgotten, selling food for those that have just come back in, that sort of thing. Wog, you are slightly irked at the moment because not far from where you and Ari are standing, that stupid fat goblin Zots has set up his food stand. And Ari, you notice that Wog is giving the stink eye, exchanging the stink eye with, as far as you can tell, a quite amiable old fat goblin that's selling meat on a stick.
Are you hungry, buddy?
Not for his foods.
What? Is there something wrong with his foods?
Do you eat from his stand?
I don't know, man. I walk around a lot and just grab food. I've never seen
I tried
it
that
before.
too. I tried that too. He hit me with his stick.
No, I pay for the food. Like, grab is like a term. Like, I grab some food, not... Wog, have you not been paying for stuff again?
I started to. I didn't know then. I was hungry. He hit me with that stick.
So, is that...
He called me ugly.
Oh, buddy.
I don't talk to him. Don't eat his foods.
Oh, I will never eat his food again. But you got... Like,
Promise?
Yes, I promise. I promise, buddy. I won't eat his food. But you're not ugly. Don't. He's an old fat goblin. He's just projecting his own weaknesses onto you, or his own insecurities.
I mean, he didn't have to hit me, though.
That's fair. But
Speaking of money, everybody roll 2d4.
six.
All right, multiply it times 5. That's what you've got in your purse.
Oh, I was expecting a multiplier.
in gold.
So
In gold.
thank you, generous
Yeah.
DM.
Now, that's in most places that you've lived before. Pretty substantial walking around money. Certainly for Wog, growing up young in the Shadow Marches, that's an absurd amount of money. Stormreach has a little bit of the sort of frontier gold boom town thing, where it would be a lot of money most places, but it's not a ton here.
So
I
we gotta
will
stay away from the tourist
mention
traps.
mechanically for those using D&D Beyond, if you go under your equipment, there's a currency place on the
yeah.
upper right, and you can add your monies there.
So Esri ends up with 30 gold. What's Ari ends up with 30 gold. What's Esri got?
10.
10. Nice. How about Wog? What's Wog got? Oh, you
doing
rolled
my
snake
second roll.
eyes?
I'm doing digital
Yep.
right here. And I got a 3. And then I got another 3. Awesome.
So
I have
also
12.
30.
That's
Thir-
exactly
well,
what
30.
I rolled.
Good heavens. Okay.
All right, you guys have...
Look at all of us. We're all average. I would like to declare that the stand is called Zot's Hot Lots.
accepted. Zot's Hot Lots. That's, wow. Outstanding.
I mean, do you want
So-
me to go make him apologize? Oh, sorry.
So as this conversation is winding down, you see Esri and Shade coming back across the bridge. It's nearly the end of the day. and you all are expecting to meet up and then go get some food. So out of curiosity, what's the group's tendency with food? You go find a bar, or is it, because there's a whole lot of like street vendors, or is it go walk around the marketplace and buy whatever is in the food trucks?
So regardless of what Wog just told Ari, his habits when eating alone is still to just try to grab food off of the carts. It's kind of just become a game.
And then people around him break into song, riff, raff, street rap.
A lot of that.
Well, outside, you all would frequently be invited, and I don't know if you all would attend, but in Saltier, there is at least a couple times a month when Ari tries to encourage you all to come get a free warm meal at a Unity dinner that a family there is putting on. So that's a fairly frequent event that he would encourage you all to come get to know people and stuff like that. So,
Are those the words that you use to describe it?
Unity
Family
dinner?
Unity dinner?
No, just Unity dinner. That's what they're called in Korvar culture. It's open for anybody to come have a warm meal, enjoy conversation, and then leave. So, but yeah, that's just something that happens frequently. That doesn't have to be the context in which we're going to eat tonight, but yeah.
Does Ari himself go to these?
Oh yeah, all the time. So,
Esri is going to, if they're standing outside this booth, like near this booth.
I'd say they're probably like across the street from it.
Nope. We're going
Okay.
away from this booth. Dude's got a stick, bro.
He's going to hold up and run to the booth and grab one. And then walk
what,
up and slap
is it?
Log on the back. Oh, what is it?
What is it that Zot's Hot
is-
Lots sells?
It is skewered, steamed squid tentacle.
Nice.
And he's just going to like take a bite and walk up to Wog and slap him on the back and say, "How you doing, ugly?"
A single tear rolls down.
it's okay, buddy. It's okay.
Did you pay for it?
Wog
Yeah,
starts
how much
shaking
did
a
that cost
can of
me?
Raid. Staring at your stick.
You want a bite?
Ari would be generally more inclined that when we're going out to eat together to find like a place to go sit down and hang out and have a meal together. You all notice that like mealtime is like a thing for Ari. Like when he's not big on like grabbing stuff from food vendors and just walking around. Like he wants mealtime, especially dinner, to be like we sit around a table, we talk, we enjoy each other's company, that kind of thing. So.
And that's going to be the same for Wog because in daily practice, like most people in the service industry, he eats most of his meals standing in a back room. He eats well because he's eating from the tavern, but he stands over the trash can eating what he's gotten from the kitchen because he's got to get back to work. So
Right.
he's not struggling to find meals, but the occasion to sit down and enjoy breaking bread is something that's important to him.
How did the expedition out into the jungle go?
Oh, what did you took Shade took me, Esri, to find some plants? That's what we were doing, is that correct?
I did. There were some interesting plants that I thought you could use.
I'm just gonna
Also,
roll
could we
that.
work on a finder's fee?
Speaking of
Let
which,
me tell you.
for the sake of making sure that you pay for that joke, how much did that squid tentacle cost out of your gold inventory?
I asked. I was willing to pay for it. He said, "Don't worry about it."
Oh, now he's just giving food away. All of a sudden, he's not concerned about his food costs.
Am I the Patrick Rothfuss of this campaign?
No, I just don't like making people track their living expenses.
Yeah, no, I'm aware. It was fine. These are useful. It was good to find a bunch, but they're not particularly valuable. But
I thought you said look for the 4-pointed leaves. They had 4 points.
yeah, on a single leaf, it's not a cluster of 4. It's it's okay. You can use these. These are useful. They're good for throat aches, and upset stomachs. They're kind of like kind of numb you as they go down. But it's fine. It's fine.
You're gonna
Just,
need those if you keep eating from Zots.
Well, and there was a cooler looking one, but that turned out to be carnivorous.
Hate when that happens.
I love it.
So as you are here, the day's coming to a close. You become aware as you're talking and munching on a tentacle that there appears to be some kind of altercation going on just this side of the bridge. Looking over, you see a tall, ridiculously good-looking half-elf, dressed in really fancy jungle gear, and he's standing in front of a cart, and you can see there are several, what you would guess to just be sort of hirelings. A lot of people will just get hired to assist on expeditions, just as people get hired to guide expeditions, standing around the cart, and the cart is piled high with stuff. Artifacts of stone. There's at least one sarcophagus, sacks of things. It looks like the hall out of a pyramid or some equivalent. Standing in front of the person is what was the first time you saw it, deeply alarming thing, but you've probably become accustomed to it. There is an elf. There's a tall elf. The elf looks, but you now know isn't, the elf looks very undead. And you've come to recognize this as an elf from the elven nation of Erenal, which is an island nation not far from Zendrick, has an embassy here in Stormreach where they do business with the Stormlords. The elves of Erenal, most elves in Eberon are really focused on preserving their past. The elves in Erenal do it very, very literally. The best elves are literally preserved beyond death. They are maintained in life as an undying being. Lesser elves, but still elves of means, will sometimes pay to have their spirits bound into an object so that they can stay with their families as a little bust on the mantelpiece or that sort of thing. But living Iranian
Yes, Casey,
elves,
that reaction is correct. Yes.
living Iranian elves will alter their bodies to look as if they are beyond death. And so they will use chemicals to sort of pre-embalm their skin and tattoo their faces to make them appear more skull-like. And so this elf has a very distinctive sort of greenish-white skull face tattoo, and his hands and the part of his arms that are visible have that sort of deep brown, dry look of an old embalmed corpse. And it is, it was shocking, though. Now, it might still be troubling to you, but you at least know what you're looking at.
I'm having a hard time reconciling this with you saying he's incredibly good looking.
No. The half-elf he's talking to is incredibly good-looking.
Got it. Oh, man. I was like, dude,
The elf,
what are you telling me Wog is into right now? Because this has gotten out of hand.
The elf is only really good-looking if you happen to be from Erenal.
Okay.
So there's an argument going on. You look over and you see the elf saying, "This is the plunder of my people. This was our land long before your people got here, and you are... How would you like it if I went and dug up your grandfather and dragged his bones through the streets and sold him to a museum?" And the half-elf, looking on, says, "Well, if you can find him, I doubt his bones are worth very much at all, if you know what I mean."
I don't know what he means.
From the look on the elf's face, he doesn't really either. But all the hirelings behind the half-elf laugh uproariously as if it was the funniest joke on the planet.
The funniest joke money could buy, in fact.
Yes.
Nice.
Nice. The elf says, "Well, whatever your grandfather's bones were worth, my grandfather's, or whoever that is, deserve a greater deal of respect than to be shoved in a cart." The half-elf says, "You know who I am and who I work for." "Of course I do not. I do not care. Well, let me tell you, friend, you are speaking. You have the pleasure to be speaking to the one and only Hallis Martain of the world-famous Wayfinder Foundation. This was an entirely legal expedition, and with a flourish she unfurls a scroll. I have the letters of marque to prove it. These will be taken back to the Wayfinder Center for distribution to museums and collectors, and all perfectly legal. Whatever claim your people had to this land is long gone." And you can see the elf sort of tensing, and at that moment, some of the guard approach, and there's a somewhat quieter conversation, and then Hallis Martain and his expedition move on. The elf stands there sort of steaming, and who has, I think I've asked this before, but I'm going to ask it again because I don't remember, who has the highest perception modifier? Is it
I've got
Esri? I
5.
feel like I remember it being Esri.
We asked about insight last time, but my
insight,
insight
okay.
perception are both 5s.
All right, so Esri has 5. Anyone else got that? Shade has 4. Okay. Esri, you see, as they move on, the elf seething, you see there's a sort of the outline of the skull mask, sort of just very briefly, just a flash of glow along the outlines of it, and you see a slight gesture of the hand. And then nothing happens for a minute, and then there's a loud thump, and another thump coming from the cart. And looking over, you see suddenly the lid of the sarcophagus shove open, and a mummified corpse rears up and lunges at one of the hirelings. And madness breaks loose. Like, people scream and start running. The hirelings drop the cart, and this thing lumbers out, sort of tumbles off the cart, gets up in this terribly puppet-like motion, and just begins lumbering towards the nearest living being. What do you do? All of you see this. Esri noticed the elf's action.
That's a neat trick. Do you have control? Because that's not going to end well.
The elf is sitting with... Ari, do we have to go that way to get to the restaurant?
It'd take a lot longer if we went around. As Ari's grabbing his blaster off of his waist.
The elf sort of folds his arms and says, "I don't know what you're talking about."
The animated skeleton, right? It's attacking people right there.
Yes. It was a very, very poor decision to bring that out of its resting place and into the city, wasn't it?
Is that your literal grandfather?
No.
Oh.
No. My literal grandfather is still alive in Erenal.
Got it. So we're just...
Ari, oh, go ahead.
And
go ahead.
he turns and walks away from you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Esri. Look me up.
Ari tries to like get a step close to him before engaging, and
The creature or the elf?
the elf,
Okay.
and says very as subtly as possible. I'm assuming there would be these on the street. There's a smaller cart like 20 feet away. If you can unload as much as you want, we'll try to keep this as slow as possible.
The elf looks at you and... Thank you very much. And moves on. Over towards the cart you have pointed out.
And then Ari,
Shade did not laugh. I would like to clarify. That was definitely Casey, the player. Shade did not laugh when the thing happened.
Yeah, how has
She
Shade
just
reacted?
immediately, crouch. Like as soon as that happened, she sort of went into defensive stance, and she is right, waiting to decide.
As you guys watch, a guardsman rushes over to try and intercept this thing, which itself is impressive because you've just encountered an apparently courageous guardsman, and the mummy just sort of heaves sideways and just punches him straight in the chest, and he just crumples and goes over.
Oh,
Ari's going to move to engage in combat, as it were.
Then it's time to roll initiative.
Yeah, Shade does not feel good about this.
Hey, I did a first thing in this campaign.
Nice.
Natural one.
Oh, it's an natural one. Well, at least it's on initiative.
Yes.
I rolled a 5.
What is your total initiative with a 1?
Oh, 3.
I have a 2 total.
Nice.
My roll was so good, and
did you
it
get?
didn't need to be. A 22.
Wow. Okay, so Shade.
She
What was-
crouched and was ready, man.
Yeah, she got ready. What was Wog's?
I'm a 7.
7. All right, so it's going to be Shade, then Wog, then the mummy, then Esri. I'm sorry, then Ari. Oof, I'm going to get there.
Oof.
Then Ari, and then Esri.
Makes sense. I was trying to get deets.
Trying to hand him your business card while he walks away. Find me on LinkedIn.
All right, Shade, what do you do? It's about 20 feet away from you, let's say.
She 20 feet away from me?
Sure.
Could it be 15?
Sure.
Because I want to do a thing. Shade does not intentionally do anything, but she definitely is very worried about this situation, and doesn't feel like she's in control, and that activates her mark, and it causes lightning lore,
Awesome.
which is not helping the control of the situation, but this is what has happened.
So describe what that looks like.
It is what it sounds like. She crouches and sort of startles, and the lightning, there's just this lightning strike that hits the mummy, and then also, well, I guess the mummy has to roll, doesn't it?
It makes a
So the
saving throw.
target-
Is it strength or...
Target must succeed on a strength saving throw.
Cool.
We've had a long rest since our escape from...
Oh, certainly.
No, it's been
18 months
2
ago.
years.
Well, I'm.
I hope
reasonably
I got my spells back.
I'm quite confident that your DC is higher than 9. So
I'm glad you're confident about that. But yes, it is. Barely, but it is. So the mummy is pulled towards me 10 feet
Okay.
and takes 1d8 lightning damage.
Awesome. So it is, it's lunged towards this guard that it's put on the ground, arms out, and all of a sudden there's this crack, and it's just yanked backwards towards Shade.
I guess I should clarify. It says the target must succeed on a strength saving throw or be pulled up to 10 feet in a straight line towards you and then take 1d8 lightning damage if it's within 5 feet. But this would be at 5 feet? So
Yeah, it
is
would
that
be-
within?
Roll the damage.
Okay. I don't want to cheat, but damage is more fun than not.
You're not cheating. It's D&D. Unless you're lying to me about what's on the dice, you're not cheating.
Yes. My upcoming 5 natural 20s in a row will be cheating. So
6. Okay. Yeah. There's a little bit of a blackening of some of the wrappings of the mummy, and a little bit of smoke rises off of it.
She sort of yelps as it comes towards her. Mm-hmm. There's a little moment of, oh,
And its head sort of pivots too far around, and empty eyes look towards you, and it sort of swivels around to face you. Wog, there's now a mummy right up on Shade.
look up.
Oh, too close. So I can't use Burning Hands without risking her. So we're just going to straight up attack, I guess.
You do have another fire
if I-
attack, right?
If I cast Green Flame Blade, do I still get an attack after?
Yeah. You make an attack as part of the casting.
Then that's what we're going to do.
Sweet.
Cast
an attack.
Green Flame Blade.
What does Wog use? Wog would have had time to obtain, the equivalent
Wog
of starting
has
equipment.
2 small axes, one in each hand, and kind of drop down, cocks the axes, and as they bounce at the bottom, the green flame blade is activated on them.
Awesome.
I think so. I'm pretty excited. So he's close enough to just swing at, right?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm rolling my
Your D20
yep.
and adding your regular attack modifier.
So I rolled an 18.
That's definitely going to hit.
That feels good.
Mummies are not famous for their armor class.
Before I add. So now damage
And you
is
get
a
to
20
add.
also?
And I believe on a hand axe it's a D6.
Oh,
but
man,
you get to also roll some damage from the spell.
Yes. That adds. Let me roll here. I'm trying to figure out this website, man. Rolling digital here. So that's a 2 on the D6, and then I don't see where it tells me what my effect is for the spell.
I believe the spell gives you an extra D8 of fire damage.
Oh, yep. Damage
on the
rolls
creature that
increased
you
by
hit.
1d8. Okay, so we've got a 2 and a 6. So we do 8.
And you also get to add your strength modifier because you whacked it with an axe.
This went well. Plus 3, so we do 11.
Awesome. So when you hit it with the flaming axe head, you observe that it turns out that whatever they embalm mummies with is at least somewhat flammable.
Nice.
Because the thing catches, one of its arms is suddenly engulfed in flame, and it seems to be very effective to burn this thing. Mechanically speaking, this is vulnerable to fire, meaning it takes double damage when you do fire damage to it. So instead of 11 damage, you actually did 12, 14, 17 damage.
All right.
All right. It is now the turn of the mummy. So now one of its arms on fire, still very much up on Shade and Wog. It turns its attention to Wog, the nearest threat to it, and just swings with its fist. And that is going to be 16 against your armor class, Wog.
That's going to hit.
All right, so its fist just slams into you. And you take 10 points of damage, of bludgeoning damage, as it punches you. And as you do, you feel this sort of horrible magic pulse into you. I need you to make a Constitution saving throw.
Oh, cool. I'm taking my damage here at the same time.
Yeah.
It's an 11.
Did you add your saving throw
Oh,
modifier?
no, plus 2, 13.
13. Better. So you you resist it. Your body sort of fights back and repels this magical infection called mummy rot.
Gross.
That's good.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good
Good
thing.
stuff. All right. Ari, you're up.
Question.
Answer.
Is Hallis Martin near the cart still?
He is. Yeah. He's turned
Okay.
around and he's watching and with a growing sense of frustration.
Okay. What I would like to do is I'm going to position myself, move around kind of behind Shade to where the mummy is in between me and Hallis Martin. And what I would like to do, because presumably the Irani elf friend that I've made is trying to make their way over to the cart, I would like to shoot as if I'm attempting to shoot the money, but actually shoot the cart right next to where Hallis Martin is standing to try and get him to move away from the cart.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want me to make an attack roll or a deception check or all
I want
of
you to
the
make a
above.
deception check.
Okay.
I think deception check is what we want.
Okay, so that is an 18.
Okay, so yeah, you draw your blaster and take aim and fire, and the bolt streaks just past the mummy and bursts on one of the railings of the cart. And you see the wood fracture, and Hallis sort of jumps away, brushing things off.
And I yell at him and say, either get over and help or get out of the way, because you're just going to get hurt standing there.
Watch what you are doing.
Get!
Esri.
Esri looks at this
And
melee
Ari winks at
that-
the Irani elf if they're nearby.
this melee that his friends have engaged in. You know, yeah, but why though? And sort of holds out his hand and pulls up in a gesture, and he's going to attempt to cast Entangle.
I want to know
on
whether. Good. You're casting Entangle on the mummy.
on the mummy.
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's a
wanna know
20-foot
whether-
square, so I assume I can probably get the mummy and the cart, everyone except my people.
You could probably arrange it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know why there was to your friend's action or to the unpleasant urge in your head when you see innocence endangered.
No, I was just like, why did we start into this fight?
Oh my gosh.
What are we doing?
What is your spell save DC?
We were perfectly not
Sorry.
involved in this fight.
Are you saying this out loud, Esri?
I said why though? But why though out loud?
Ari would say in a very grandiose, hamming it up manner, because there's innocence in danger.
Yes, me.
Shade is all. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
You're good.
All right, so I
Why
cast.
what?
Good.
I cast Entangle. Everything within the 20-foot square needs to make a strength check against my spell DC.
And
Of
your spell
13.
DC is 13. All right. Well, the mummy has failed. So
Huzzah.
what does your entangle look like? Is it the standard vines and whatnot, or does it have its own?
No,
Esri?
it's going to be the. So we're in the docks area. No, yeah, in the docks area, right?
We're
Or
near
the
the
river
river.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be just sort of the slime, the sort of algae and slime of being near water, growing exponentially to be sticky around the feet.
Yeah, so
gross.
the moisture
Gross.
seems to sort of thicken in the area around the cart, and you see these tendrils of vibrant green algae snaking their way up around the legs of the mummy, as well as around one of the hirelings who had not gotten quite enough out of the way, who starts just screaming in terror. Alas, Hallis Martin easily sidesteps and says, "That is fascinating."
So they are restrained, and on their turn, they can use an action to make another strength save.
Cool. All right, and restrained for those who don't know is they can't move.
For up to a minute.
I like that. That's what you think needs explained.
It also means for those of you engaged in combat, it also like mechanically, it can't move from its space. Mechanically in combat, for those of you, that means you have advantage on your attack rolls against it. And it is back around to Shade.
Shade would like to take care of the mess that has been created here by her. So she's going to stab it with a sword.
What does Shade have a special sword, or is Shade just acquired a plain old longsword? What does Shade use?
She currently has a plain old longsword. Okay. It's not very interesting, but it does come in handy when going down to the juggle tours.
Yes,
So-
definitely.
She's saving up for something cool. She doesn't know what that is.
But it's out there.
It is.
You know it when you see it. You know, the weapon speaks to you.
That's right. She rolled not a natural, but a 20.
Awesome. That definitely hits.
It was right balanced on the edge of not a 2, but then it tipped over to the 2. So hit it for 3.
All right. Hey, I have a question. When you built Shade, is she a standard hunt? Is she a standard ranger, or did you use any of like the optional stuff? I'm asking from the perspective of favorite enemies.
What a
She did-
great question you asked.
She did use some of the
Philip.
optional rules.
Did you use the optional rule that replaces favorite enemy?
Yes, I believe so.
I do have favored foe.
Would you like to retroactively use a bonus action to mark your target? Oh, actually,
If
it
you will
happens. It
let
just
me,
happens
then
automatically. You
yes.
don't have to anymore. It happens when you hit it.
When you hit a creature, you can mark the target as your favorite enemy.
All right.
So I would like to mark it,
And do your additional
and
damage.
then I get to yes,
Fancy.
sweet. 3 more.
Cool. So a total of 6. Is that right?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, it's 6, and she's not a commanding presence. She's muttering under her breath. She's like, "Just stop it! Just don't."
And with that, it's sort of reaching one of its now increasingly slime-covered arms towards you, and you just sort of slice, and like a couple of fingers go off the hand. Wog, it's now partially on fire and partially beslimed.
Yeah, gross. And we are still. Shade is also very close to it still, right?
Yes, although since you're now like right up onto it with Shade, you could work the angle so that Burning Hands would not hit Shade. Now, it would not hit Shade, there you are still on a busy street. Well, it's not very busy anymore. Or not busy in the same way that it used to be busy.
The civilians just walking around like GTA. Minor
This
inconvenience.
is inconvenient.
Every Tuesday in this place. No, we're gonna go ahead and strike again with Green Flame Blade. That is 16 plus.
Hits.
Oh, okay. And then we're gonna damage you. And it was plus 5.
It's plus
what
your
we said?
strength modifier. So you're getting a D6 and a D8 plus your strength modifier.
So my D6 is a 4.
Okay.
My D8 is a 2. And
But
my
it's actually a
strength
4. So
adds
it's fire
3.
damage.
Oh, that's true.
All right. So
And 3.
a total of 11 again for this one.
I'm consistent.
All right. Yeah, it is. The fire starts to sort of spread as Wog hacks into it with his hatchet again, and it's now sort of the whole top quarter of this thing is on fire as it's flailing around at you, and as algae climbs up the bottom of it, and it is its turn.
Gross.
I think it's not intelligent enough to care about escaping. It's just sort of flailing in attack. So it has disadvantage on its attacks from being restrained, but it is going to still make its attack, and this time against Shade. But 8, I think, probably does not hit you. And
It does not.
so it lunges at Shade, who manages to dodge, skip out of the way, something. All right. Ari, you're up again.
So
This
what's
is
the
starting to look,
situation?
starting to lose its composition.
Yeah. Ari isn't very much concerned about his compatriots dealing with the mummy. They seem to have it well in hand. What's the situation at the cart look like? With the
It's now covered in algae.
Okay.
It's real slimy and green. It looks like it just got pulled out of the river after being in there for several months. Hallis Martin also doesn't seems to have lost interest in the mummy and is now watching the cart with just a sense of not really alarm, just that is just really interesting.
Okay. Do I see the Irani elf anywhere trying to get to the cart, or?
You don't see the cart you were talking about.
Okay.
Bro just went and took the whole thing.
I did say I would keep the fight slow, and I can't see what they're doing, so I don't know if they've gotten what they want. So,
No, I'm sorry. I mean, you look where the cart was. It's not there anymore.
okay, and I don't see them anywhere near the.
And you
near
don't see
cart.
the elf.
Okay, well, in that case, then I'm going to aim for the mummy's head. That is going to be a 21 to hit.
Yes, that hits.
And for the damage,
Did you roll with advantage?
I did not.
You do have
guess
advantage.
Might get the nap.
Check for the 20.
Natural 20.
Solid.
We did it, boys.
Awesome. Then
Solid.
you may double your damage die.
So then that's going to be 14 damage to the mummy because I rolled a 7 on my
Awesome.
Eldritch Blast.
So as Wog and Shader are fighting with this thing, and it sort of screams at Shade, just it's suddenly cut off as its jaw is blown off of its
Oh,
face
yes.
by Esri. And looking over, yeah, Esri is in the gunslinger pose.
Yeah.
Ari, oh my gosh! I mean, now I'm just stuck. Ari is just over in the gunslinger pose. define a little bit about how your blaster looks in action. This is an Eberron tech that I've made up, but you're the only one using it, so you can define a little bit about what it's like in action.
Yeah, so it has kind of the standard wood handle of what you would imagine a period handgun looking like, but where there would normally be the metal barrel and the hammer, you see a glowing Eberron dragon shard, which I assume are common enough to where everybody would know what it is. And when Ari pulls it up and activates it, holding it in his hand, the shard begins to glow, and then the what looked like etched metal design on the barrel begins to glow with the same energy that the Eberron Dragon Shard is glowing with. And once it fills up, the glowing intensifies until finally it releases and shoots out. So
awesome. That's awesome.
It happens over the course of about a second and a half. I made it sound really slow, but yeah, that's what it looks like in slow motion. So
It's a charge pistol.
Yeah.
Philip, what is an Eberron Dragon Shard?
An Eberron Dragon Shard. So Dragon Shards they look like gemstones. They tend to have veins that sort of glow running through them. Eberron Dragon Shards tend to be red. They're sometimes referred to as bloodstones. And so they would look like a red gemstone with darker, sometimes blackish or just darker red veins running through them.
Yeah, and so Ari's Eldritch Blast, the energy that pulsates through his arcane blaster, is the same color as the veins inside the Dragon Shard. So that very kind of almost blood red kind of look glows throughout it, and then a blast of energy shoots out of the barrel.
Awesome.
And they are sources of arcane energy?
So you can use Dragon Shard, processed Dragon Shard, to replace pretty much any spell component, assuming it's of sufficient potency. It's also the basis for most of the magical crafting in Eberon. So most of the enchantment that's worked into everyday life is made with the use of processed Dragon Shard, mostly Eberon, although sometimes Khyber and Sybaris, which are the higher powered, the more potent in magical capacity. But the Eberron Dragon Shard is the most common and the one that is sort of the backbone of mage crafting in the world. So, and it is Esri's turn.
Oh, the thing is still standing?
It is. It is. You might interpret that it is being more held aloft by algae at this point than under its own power, but it is still moving.
Stop helping it.
Esri's gonna walk up to it, kind of sigh and shake his head. This is just such a waste. And he's gonna cast ukulele and hit it with the stick.
Does your magic stick now turn into a ukulele, which you bash it on the head with?
This is already retconning so much of my irritation with Esri. You just start turning things into instruments that irritate.
All right, what's your attack roll with your shillelagh?
17.
That definitely hits. Yes.
All right. 9 damage.
How does Esri finish off the mummy?
With regret. It is a backhanded uppercut to take off the rest of the head. Just pop it off of the spinal column.
Yeah. And so there is this sort of snapping sound, and this partly broken, flaming, mummified head arcs into the air and then comes down with a thud among the algae and just sort of steams and goes out. And the rest of the body sort of drops limp and half keels over, except where it's held aloft by this mound of algae that's formed around it, but stops moving.
Gross.
Ari shouts from across the street where we're standing and says, I only caught part of your conversation earlier, but I think your grandpa's bones are ready to be taken now at Hallis.
And Hallis, bravo, outstanding. I tell you what, I feel a certain amount of indebtedness to you all. And he walks over, stepping kind of carefully on the now algae slicks cobblestones.
Sorry, and I'll release concentration on that.
Oh,
Wog starts wiping his blades off from the gross green slime on him.
There is some gross slime on them. I tell you what, you lot, any one thing from that cart, it's yours.
All right.
Shade had been like scooting away. Like there was a bunch of commotion because there was a giant mummy in front of her, and so she was like trying to inch over, and she stopped at that.
All of you, any one thing.
Oh, so we get one thing total or four things total?
One thing. Any one thing you
Okay.
want from the cart.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's go, gang. Let's figure out what we want.
Wog heads over.
Tell me what you find on the cart. Hallis has hauled out of a jungle ziggurat the contents of whoever you just re-killed's tomb.
A very intricate looking deck of tarot cards.
Sure.
No.
Oh,
No.
No, I referenced a specific deck of tarot cards.
I know what you're
Okay. Let's make this a short show.
Trying to think of.
You can just describe an object you find, and
Wow.
we'll figure out either its value or its function later.
I think.
I'm. Yeah, go ahead. Go. I have to defer to you D&D players here. I got no idea.
No, I'm just basing it off context clues from the earlier conversation, because Ari knows zero things about what that Iranian elf was talking about, but Ari sees a bust similar to what the Iranian elf was describing, like lesser ancestors' spirits attached to, and sees something like that, and his thinking is like, if I ever run into that elf again, I'm sure that this would be a thing that like might bear some significance, but that would be the thing that he would go for.
Okay, you see Ari sort of lift a very old looking black stone bust of an elf wearing some kind of gilded funerary mask.
Seems like
Esri's
a
gonna
puppet or
kneel
something.
down by the remains of the skull. Hey, what about this? You still taking this?
The skull? No, by all means. If you want the skull, that's entirely fine.
Ari yells
Grab
back
the
from the
skull
cart.
and
That's
the
not our
jaw."
one thing. Not
No,
on the
by
cart.
all means, take the skull. That's a tip.
I very intentionally get the jawbone too, if there's
Okay.
if there's pieces left.
Sure. You have the remains of a mummified elf's head.
Lovely.
Great.
And Hallis sort of like, oh, that's a very fine piece. Yes, I think you'll be very pleased with that. So anyway, thank you for your assistance. Really should check more carefully on these things, I suppose, before we arrive in town. Accidents do happen, but all right.
You do
He
that.
looks around, and the hirelings sort of come on, let's on we go.
Does the cart seem any lighter than when we first saw it? Like, is there stuff missing?
There there were a couple things missing, yeah.
Okay.
Did the hirelings put the lid to the sarcophagus back on?
Yeah, they're sort of heaving, well, not really back on, but they're sort of heaving it onto the cart. And then the cart goes trundling along the way.
Well, who's hungry?
Accidents do happen? That's just, is that what? Just,
I don't think that
Yeah.
was an accident.
Yeah, sometimes you step in something. Sometimes the skeletons that you've raided from ruins in the woods come back to life.
these are not the same. You said it like they were, but no, they're not the same.
Ari speaks up as he's like undoing the kind of top knot ponytail that he has in his hair, and he's slicking his hair back down as it's kind of frizzed out. And he says, "And by the way, I've told you what that humidity does to my hair when you call that stuff in, and please find something else to entangle people with. Vines, fine, but that humidity just kills it."
So this scene is interrupted as someone runs up and says, "Vog, Shade." And you look over, and both of you see a very, very tall humanoid running towards you. She has dark brown hair worn in braids and tied back. She
Walk
has
starts adjusting
sort of
his hair in preparation of her arrival.
slate gray skin with the entire sort of right side of her face has been intricately tattooed all the way down on her neck in white. And Wog and Shade both recognize this as their friend Solarka, who is a Goliath, reluctant blacksmith's apprentice. Her father is the proprietor of Black Iron, which is a forge here in the city. He's a quite skilled mage wright, actually, and one of only a few non-house connected businesses here that can make enchanted weapons. And Solarka is very, very eager to do something other than be a blacksmith with her life.
Although she is who helped me put my blades back into functioning order after I found them.
That's outstanding. I was literally just about to ask about this acquaintance. So
Based on Wog's reaction,
she's handy.
Based on Wog's reaction to her coming over, Ari's behind him, just kind of pats him up, like, "Okay, breathe, buddy. Remember, just like we talked about, just be yourself."
What's Shade's acquaintance with Solarka like?
Well, in reaction to her coming towards them, she doesn't notice what Wog's doing at all. She's like, "They said it was just an accident. He just," and then Esri is like, "It's normal," but they sort of established relationship because they both identify reluctantly being in situations that they don't want to be in. Mm-hmm. And we were talking earlier about the longsword that Shade currently has versus what she wants, and she definitely just sort of daydreams and idealizes what that sword could be with Solarka. And they talk about like the cool details that it could have, just, you know, when we get out of the things we're currently doing.
Awesome. And so she's, what happened here?
A giant mummy attacked.
There was a mummy?
Ari whispers to
giant
Wog,
mummy.
"Breathe, buddy."
I believe it's an
She can
elf.
talk to her.
Well, I mean, it was just like, it was a lot taller than me.
And it is dead?
Wog
I set it
killed
on fire.
Yeah, Wog
I
took care of
burned it
And she,
with these.
and she just
Pull back.
leans back and she just punches Wog in the arm really hard. You didn't wait for me to get here.
I didn't start it. It was Shade. Shade started.
There was actually
hit
a
first.
monster in the town.
How much damage did he take from that punch? Because he took 16 before.
I'm at 4 HP, so I go down going,
Now
"But
you're
I
at-
like you."
Now you're at 3.
I'm actually adjusting. Yeah, all right.
Well, then you have to tell me everything about it. Come on, at the cat.
We're-
Let's go. And she
You
hauls you all off.
would have loved it.
I
It
know.
was terrifying, but you would have liked that.
I wasn't scared.
I was held up at the forge 5 minutes. And as she's ranting her frustration, hello, Strider. She is leading
I
you
forgot
towards.
that I have the one-way telepathic connection, so my coaching for Wog is telepathic. Like I'm in his head,
Excellent.
giving him encouragement.
Excellent. That's outstanding.
I start responding out loud. I'm trying. Leave me
Buddy,
alone.
we talked about this.
She's leading you towards a sort of tumble of a very ramshackle building called the Ship's Cat, which is one of the better inns in the area and is probably the best food in Southwatch as far as like a sit-down place. You might have opinions about certain food carts or that sort of thing, but in terms of a place to sit down and eat, it's probably the best. The one thing is, you really need to like cats. Because the Ship's Cat is not an idle name. The Ship's Cat is named largely because of the enormous number of street cats that make their home at the inn and are extremely expected to be extremely well treated by any guests at the Ship's Cat. If you are rude to the cats, you will find yourself promptly kicked out by Harish, the proprietor. And as you enter, you would see many cats roaming around freely. Most of the dining area is open air. It's sort of a large covered patio with the inn portion, obviously inside, but the dining is mostly outside. And Harish sort of looks over and waves and says, "Yes, I will be with you in just a moment." Harish is a shifter. She is much more darker furred, sleek, and unsurprisingly, somewhat more feline in tendency than Shade. But you are free to take a table. Which I presume
As
that
we
you
walk in, Ari, kind of looking around the cats, makes a noise, and one of the tan cats hops down onto his shoulder and goes, "Hi, Jerome," and scritches him behind the ear.
Awesome. So you find a table. Food and drink is brought to you, and Solarka. I mean, you are seated, and Solarka. Now you will tell me everything about the mummy.
I'm
Wog?
really sorry.
There was a pretty man, and the pretty man was fighting a skull man. They were arguing, and when the pretty man walked away, the mummy jumped out of a box, and Shade hit him, and what?
I didn't really hit him. I kind of pulled him towards me
It hurt him. He hit us.
because I was scared. So that was weird.
Shade, let Wog tell the story, please.
Well, he was.
So Shade started
But it was-
a fight, and I set him on fire.
Sorry.
and he hit me, but it didn't hurt a lot. I'm fine. Turns and looks to Ari and looks across at Esri. We won, and we got a rock head.
Well,
Ari
And he takes a
made
drink.
the head explode, and then Esri came in with the stick and like popped his head off. Like it was hard to see from the other side, but it was.
Yeah.
Oof.
Esri made everything slimy.
I miss.
He did make
Everything.
everything slimy.
I don't know why he did that, but he made everything slimy. I'm gonna have to sharpen and clean my blades. So
Well, let's come over to the forge. We'll help you take care of it, and you can tell me more about the fight.
And
I grab
Ari
Ari's
whispers in
knee.
Wog's head, "Good job, buddy."
I miss everything at the forge. My father is never going to let me out of that place. Ugh. I'm going to make weapons for adventurers all of my life. And
You just leave.
I cannot just leave my father. He's getting old. He needs us there. I mean, I only have 6 older brothers. It's he needs all of our help.
Well, what's he paying you?
It's a family business. We live and eat.
You're not
So
getting
we-
paid for your labor?
He's my father. What do you want me
Listen,
to do?
You're
Negotiate?
talking
wages?
about. You're talking to the foremost experts in improving your living situation. What advice do you need?
She laughs. Oh, that is good. Food. And food is laid out and drinks. It's mostly, soups and salads and that kind of thing. It mostly focuses on food made from
cats.
jungle plants.
Oh, misread the place. Sorry.
From jungle plants, as well as seafood, or not seafood, but fish out of the river. It's very much a sort of local taste sort of restaurant.
Y'all
Which
should
means
have
there's a lot of
ordered
variety.
at the cart.
Wog is nervous to eat too much and kind of picks because soups are really hard with that underbite. You don't look very cool eating soups, so kind of picking at the greens, not really devouring things. Even though he has 3 HP and should probably take some nourishment.
So this amounts to a short rest to learn a mechanic here. So during a short rest, if you want, Wog, you can spend a hit die. I realize you only have one, but you can spend your hit die by rolling that die, a d12, since you're a barbarian, and adding your constitution modifier to the result, and you regain that many hit points.
Cool.
When the food is brought, if we eat here frequently enough, which I guess I've named and befriended one of the cats,
So you probably do.
Ari's meal would have come with bread because growing up on the road, if you're having soup and salad, it's usually in some kind of vessel, and so he doesn't
Red
use a
Bull.
spoon or a fork. He just like dunks the bread in the soup, lets it soak, and then eat it. So,
Awesome.
which is probably very weird to all of you, especially when he stacks the salad on a piece of bread and just.
Wog tries it one time with the bread, and it still winds up dribbling down his goatee, and so he does not. He goes back to the salad. Soggy bread is not any easier to eat than soup was.
All right. So the meal goes, and you are plied with multiple tellings of the mummy fight, as if it was the greatest thing that has ever happened. by this very, very eager Goliath as the meal goes on. And I think that's where we should pause because we've been going a bit. And so we'll call that our episode. So thank you all for watching. Eric, do the thing.
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at The Geek Pantheon, and we have a Facebook group, The Geek Pantheon, that you can search for on that platform. But we also have a Discord if you want to engage with all of us and our wonderful community. You can find the link down in the description below. And we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/The Geek Pantheon. If you enjoy this show literally could not have happened without the support of our amazing patrons. So if you would like to join them, patreon.com/The Geek Pantheon. We have lots of tiers starting at $1. So go over and check that out. I also stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/The Geek Pantheon every Sunday and Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central and Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. Central. Come by, hang out, let's talk some D&D. I would love to have you.
Yeah, Eric doesn't have a lot going on.
Yeah.
Colin.
You can find me on socials. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at SorryBTR, and I am at twitch.tv/SorryBTR. The O is a 0.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching again. This has been Khyber Shards. I'm Philip.
I'm Eric.
I'm Colin.
All right.
And I'm Casey.
And we'll see you next time.